Joining us now is Alia Chandra. She is editor-in-chief of Euromaidan Press, an independent Ukrainian news outlet. She lives in Kyiv, but fled with her family to Lviv a few days ago. Alia, first of all, tell me about your situation personally. Where are your kids? What are your plans?
Well, at the very moment, we just had an air alarm, so everybody is going to the bomb shelter. They are inside. I'm still standing outside. Our plans are basically to get them over the border to my husband's family in Germany, because we don't know what will happen next. After that, we will return to work from Lviv. It is relatively peaceful here, except for these air alarms, but I cannot even imagine being away from my country at this time. Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm sure you can't imagine being away from your children, and I understand you are pregnant as well. So tell us what it has been like covering this story, even from the perspective of Lviv, as well as the personal plans that are constantly in the making as you try and figure out what to do.
Well, for me personally, it was a very big thing to leave Kyiv because I never thought I would run away from a battlefield. But when you have kids in your hands, you understand that you need to think about them first of all. Then, I mean, it has been absolutely surreal covering the events, the bombing of our peaceful cities that is ongoing. And as we speak right now, from a place that is relatively peaceful. And I have just seen this footage, from Syria, from Donbass, it was so far away. Now it has come to my city. I am so angry at what is happening. I am so angry at this insane lunatic who has invaded our country for his insane ideas. And I pray for our army that they will fight back, that we will all withstand this with this act of aggression, and we will be victorious.
Alia, this is so hard for you as a mother and as a journalist as well. You must know that you're going to drop your kids in Poland and you could be trying to go back to Kyiv, where there is a huge convoy of Russian military vehicles outside. Do you really think it's going to be possible for you to get back into the capital city?
No, we're going back to Lviv. I don't think it will be possible to go to Kyiv right now. The city we know that most of the efforts of the Russians are directed at capturing the city. So we will be staying in Lviv and trying to do what we can from here. But a lot of my colleagues are courageously covering the situation from on the ground in Kyiv. Right now, we know that Vladimir Putin is trying to raise the stakes before the next round of talks with Ukraine that are set to happen tomorrow. So all of this bombing is an attempt just to pressure Ukraine to capitulate to his insane demands. His demands to basically abandon our sovereignty in order to become an appendage of Russia, which is something that Ukraine will never accept.
So, Alia, along with the reporters who are staying behind to cover the fight, there are men who are returning to fight and women doctors, women nurses, and women taking up arms. Tell us about the Ukrainian women and what is driving them to stay in Ukraine and fight the Russians.
I think first emotion, I guess, is anger. Anger that somebody could just invade our country and do this to us. I think also a sense of unity, a sense of willingness to die for your freedom. Yeah, I think it is. I think that Ukraine has finally understood that it's better to die than to live on your knees. And this is what we're doing basically now. Putin tells us that we don't exist. Putin tells us that we don't have a right to be independent, to have an independent government. He says our culture doesn't exist, our language doesn't exist. Well, we disagree. We are a nation. We're an independent, proud nation, and we know we want to live our own life, not just be appendage of this nuclear superpower that just wants to take over the world.
The anger that you describe so profoundly, do you think, though, it will be able to ultimately stand up to Putin's hand? He has a convoy miles long headed into Kyiv. What happens when they finally get to the center of the city? Do Ukrainians keep fighting if there is even a puppet government?
Well, our government has distributed instructions on how to stop tanks in urban conditions, what we should do if we see a tank convoy going through our city. They're distributing instructions on creating Molotov cocktails. So can you imagine that 8 years ago, Ukrainians were trying to stop the violence of their own government with Molotov cocktails. And now our government is giving us instructions how to fight the Russian invaders with instructions how to make Molotov cocktails. So, I'm sure that Ukraine will win. The question is how many civilian victims there has to be, how much destruction there has to be before the West finally understands that you can't stand aside, that it's not really only a Russian-Ukrainian conflict, that Vladimir Putin has declared a war against civilization itself.
So, Alexandra, can you please stay in touch with us on your progress, not just reaching your children, but covering this? We'd like to have you back. Thank you so much for your powerful words this morning.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.